Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're all doing very well this evening. Manchester United are winning 3 transfer races at the moment. If you listen to what is being said in the media, I would put it down to 2. We'll be talking about that tonight, and the hint is probably in the thumbnail that it's Jadon Sancho and Jude Bellingham. But Sky Germany have been talking about Havertz and Werner, and also we'll have a little bit of an update for you in relation to Van der Beek and many other things as well. But the first thing I want to start off with is just to say this. Is nothing wrong with saying that you think a transfer story involving Manchester United is a load of horseshit, because the reality is you're probably on very firm ground. How the hell can we be close to signing Sancho, close to signing Bellingham, close to signing Van der Beek, close to signing Grealish and close to signing Havertz? It cannot be the case. So I had a bit of stick today because people are going, Goldbridge says it's a load of crap. And actually they got the player wrong. They're talking about Van der Beek. I think United might be in for Van der Beek. I just think it also might be a bit of PR spin. I don't think we're in for Havertz. In fact, I'm quite happy to say we won't sign Kai Havertz. And unless Woodward's got a vendetta against me and he's watching now going, sign me Havertz to do him over, we ain't in for Havertz. That is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. But apparently we are. That's the one that I'm saying a load of crap is. But I'll tell you now, out of Havertz, Van der Beek and Grealish, one of them's a load of crap. Probably 2 of them's a load of crap. So to make your choices, we ain't close to signing 3 players who play in the same bloody position. So we're Manchester United at the end of the day. We don't do those sort of things. And that's exactly what happens in a transfer window. So it's all about opinion, of course it is. I mean, Sky Germany today have come out with 2 things that I just do not believe. I don't think Sky Germany are that great. I think people hear the word Sky and think, oh, they must be good. Sky Italia's not great all the time. Sky Sports in England's not great all the time. If Sky Sports was right, we would have signed a lot more players than we have. So Sky Germany coming out with that United are close to Havertz. They're also saying that United did bid for Werner, but he chose Chelsea because it was more lucrative. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with either of those stories. I don't think we did go for Werner. I think we were interested in Werner and we didn't go for Werner, because I think if we did go for Werner, Werner would have come to Manchester United, and if Liverpool had gone to Werner, he would have gone to there, because he quoted both clubs at the start of March. He quoted us both about 2 years ago as well. And I think Werner would go to United or Liverpool. I think he's gone to Chelsea because they're the one that have gone for him, and United haven't and Liverpool haven't for their own reasons. As for Havertz, he could end up going to Chelsea. And that could give us a free path to Jadon Sancho. And I think that's where I want to start off with tonight. ESPN, look, whatever you think about ESPN, Mark Ogden's ESPN, and he was absolutely spot on with the transfer budget last summer. So credit where it's due. Not every journalist is ever going to get it right all the time. Some of them get it a lot wrong. Some of them get it a lot right. So ESPN saying that Manchester United are leading the race for Jude Bellingham and Jadon Sancho. And I think what you've got to do with regards to Sancho, especially if we start on Sancho before we move to Bellingham, you've got to look at the race. Who's in the race for Jadon Sancho? Now, I think there's 2 leaders in this race. One of them's Borussia Dortmund and one of them's Manchester United. Do I think he's going to stay at Dortmund? No. Do I think Dortmund might force him to stay out of stubbornness? Potentially, but they'll lose a lot of money next summer unless they try and get. If you're Borussia Dortmund, I said this weeks ago, he's got 2 years left on his contract. In a year's time, he's got 1 year left on his contract, and his price is halved because no one's going to pay a big fee with 1 year to go. So that's the situation for Dortmund. Sancho will not sign a new contract at Dortmund. It's not on the table. No matter what they offer him, he won't do it, because by signing that new contract, Sancho will see what's happened to Pogba, what's happened to Neymar, what's happened to Harry Kane. You sign the long contract, you look at the world of football and you go, doesn't matter. Somebody will buy me. Football's flush with money. Now look at it after lockdown. Golden handcuffs Pogba. Golden handcuffs Neymar. Golden handcuffs Harry Kane. Nobody can afford these players who want to move, because to sell them, the clubs are quite rightly saying we want over 100 million. Nobody can afford that, so they're stuck. So if Jadon Sancho said, I'll sign a new contract, then I'll move next summer, nobody might be able to afford him. So Sancho knows he wants the move, he won't sign the new contract, and he knows at least Manchester United want him. So I don't think Dortmund can win this race. I really don't. I think they can be stubborn and force him to stay, but that's not going to help anybody, and it will ultimately cost them money. So I don't think Dortmund are in the race. I don't think Real Madrid are in the race. Don't think they've got the money. I don't think Barcelona are in the race. They're looking at Martinez, and I don't think they've got the money either. PSG could be in the race. Don't think he's going to go to PSG. And Liverpool, not in the race. They can't even afford Werner. Chelsea are the only. I think it's Chelsea and Manchester United for Jadon Sancho, and I don't think enough has been discussed about this. Look at who can be in the race, and of course there might be a shock, but look, Arsenal aren't in the race. Don't care what they say, unless they're going to go and rob a bank. And even if they did rob a bank, they'd probably sign the door on the way out, saying courtesy of Arsenal Football Club, so they get locked up for it and end up in prison. So Arsenal aren't going to sign him. Spurs have got no money. Man City aren't going to go in for him either because they've got their own problems with this transfer ban. So the Champions League ban. So for me, it's Manchester United and Chelsea. I don't even think Dortmund are in the race. The two-horse race is Sancho for Chelsea and Sancho for Manchester United. We will win this race unless we don't get Champions League football and Chelsea do, and Chelsea go jump at the front of the queue. I can't see it any other way. So Manchester United are, I think, going to lead this race unless they mess it up themselves. And, you know, you can almost see it, can't you? We're leading the race. Ollie's at the wheel. There's the finishing line, and he takes a little detour off a cliff, and we end up back at the finishing line at the bottom of the mountain. And that's what could happen. That's what could happen if we don't get top four. So it's in Manchester United's hands for Jadon Sancho. Chelsea, I don't think Chelsea will ever let a transfer define them as losers, because they're not like that. They've gone and got Werner, and I think they'll be in the Havertz race. Even with other teams, we've left it a must, says Daniel Luciano. And aren't Chelsea signing Ziyech? Plays right wing, says Mojo. Look, don't assume Chelsea are out the race for Jadon Sancho. There's many reasons why he'd go to Chelsea. I think he supported them. He knows Tammy Abraham and some of the other younger players. Champions League club, based in London. He's from London, so he's from that area. So he could go to Chelsea. I think he wants to come to United. In fact, I'm pretty sure he wants to come to United. And who could blame him for that? But he could go to Chelsea if we don't get Champions League football. That's the only way I think we won't win this race. And I think what Chelsea are going to do, they've got Ziyech, they'll get Werner, I think they'll try and get Havertz. And then Chelsea will be like, well, you can have Sancho, we've had a better summer. And some might argue that they have. But I don't see it. It's Chelsea or United for Sancho, and we may as well just own up to that fact. He ain't staying at Dortmund, he's going to move this summer. We're at the front of the queue, we're all in, let's see what happens with it. So Sancho, I think, instead of people just saying United are going to get Sancho and then rivals going, I can't wait for when they don't get Sancho, deconstruct it and tell me why you're worried about us getting Jadon Sancho, because ultimately the only thing that makes me worry is that we don't get Champions League football. Then I think we open the door. If we get Champions League football, we'll get Jadon Sancho. It's as simple as that. And I think Chelsea may get Havertz. I've always felt that Havertz was going to Bayern Munich, but I was thinking today, how are and why are Bayern Munich going to sign Sane and Havertz? They're stacked. They've got Gnabry, Koeman, Müller, Goretzka. Obviously, we've got Lewandowski. They've got loads and loads of good players. Why would they go and spend 180 million on Sane and Havertz? They're going to win the Bundesliga with the reserves. So I think he will go to Bayern Munich, but if he doesn't, Chelsea will do what Chelsea do. They'll chuck the money at him. So, and if they do go for Havertz, they ain't going to get Sancho. So that might not be a bad thing. As for Manchester United and Havertz, this should not be a deal we're looking at anyway. If I had Ollie and Ed in a room, I'd be like, don't sign Havertz. He's very good. He is very good. He's very, very good. But are you going to sign Harry Kane when you've got Martial? You know, are you going to go and sign Mane when you've got Rashford? You don't need to do it. I'm not saying that Mane's not better than Rashford. I'm not saying Harry Kane's not better than Martial. But we don't need those players, and we don't need Havertz. We need a right winger. We don't need he can play on the right wing. We've tried that before. We tried it with Mkhitaryan. We tried it with Mata. We tried it with Kagawa. They're not bloody wingers. Don't play them on the wing. Buy the winger we need in Jadon Sancho. We don't need Havertz. We're not in the race for Havertz. We're not going to sign Havertz. Let's just shut up about Havertz. We don't want Havertz. We don't need Havertz. Ziyech and Werner going to Chelsea, and United as usual too slow in agreeing deals, allowing other teams to swoop in, says Lee Payne. But yeah, you know what I would say about that, Lee, is I don't see who's swooping in for Sancho. I don't see it. I really don't. So I think we're leading that race, and time again I've said it, and a lot of you have agreed with me. I don't think United will lose the Sancho race unless we don't get top four, which brings us nicely into what we've got coming next week, which is Spurs, which I think is our biggest game. We've got to win that game, and we'll be building up towards that next week. Mark, we need a CDM. Would you take Kimmich, says Mason. I would love Kimmich. I think he's a fantastic player. And Daniel Luciano says, in terms of forwards, I don't know why we would look at Dembele, Lucas Lacazette dominated League One and has struggled in the EPL. I just don't trust League One stats. Don't say that about Lacazette when there's Arsenal fans. There could be Arsenal fans in here. You can't say that about Lacazette, but I sort of get what you mean. I don't think we're in for him. Please smash a like on the video if you are watching and subscribe if you are new. We're nearly at 7,000 watching, so please share the video. And thanks for everyone who's knocked their super chats in. Right, so we've spoken about we're leading the race for Sancho. Jude Bellingham was the second thing that ESPN are talking about. Now, the Jude Bellingham story is very interesting. I think for some people it's not interesting at all. They're not really bothered about as signing Bellingham. For me, I think it's a very important deal. For Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I know it's a big deal. For Manchester United, I know it's a big deal. Manchester United desperately want to sign Jude Bellingham. It doesn't get the status of a Jadon Sancho or a Grealish or a Van der Beek or a Havertz because he's a 16-year-old playing in the Championship. Manchester United want this player. Manchester United know or think this player is going to be very, very special, which is what a lot of people in the Midlands think. I live around the Birmingham area, and Jude Bellingham is considered to be the next big thing, and they're very proud of him from Birmingham. So Jude Bellingham's a very important player to Manchester United. Now, I got laughed at. It was before lockdown. It was about 3 days before lockdown. I had my hair cut by my normal barber. Now, where I have my haircut, there are footballers and people who work at clubs, specifically Birmingham City and Aston Villa, who go there. I think they go there because they know that's where I get my haircut, to be honest. Let's be honest. United stands bigger than Villa and Birmingham, isn't it? I'm joking before you start complaining, but there are people who go in there, and the guy who cuts my hair is a big Blues fan, and we were talking about Bellingham, obviously, because I knew that United were interested in him, and it was around that time that his mum and dad and him had been to visit Carrington, and he said that they know somebody who goes in there, he cuts their hair, and they basically said that Bellingham will stay in England. So I've always took that, no reason to disagree, that they're looking to stay in England. So if he's looking to stay in England, I think yet again, it's Chelsea or United. I don't think Dortmund are in the equation if he's staying in England, because unfortunately for Dortmund, you can't move Dortmund to Germany to England. It's in Germany. So it appears United are winning that race as well. And I always felt United would win the Bellingham race, because Manchester United, to a young English lad, is a massive, massive club, and we really want him. And if we don't get him, it will be a loss, an L, whatever you want to call it, whatever they call it these days. We rolled out the red carpet for him at Carrington. He met Sir Alex, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Nothing was left to chance. So we are leading that race. Great. I would really like to sign Jude Bellingham, and I think he would be. Look, I want to buy into a future for Manchester United, and I think the future is very good. Rashford, Martial, hopefully Sancho, Bruno definitely. Hopefully Pogba will sign a new contract. Who knows? McTominay's young. Wan-Bissaka is young. Harry Maguire, David De Gea are still relatively sort of in their prime. They've still got many years left. Luke Shaw's still quite young. Brandon Williams is young. Tuan Sebi's young. There's a lot, Fred, 27, he's got a few years in him. There's a lot to look forward to with United. And if we can get the next wave right, Mason Greenwood, maybe Angel Gomez stays, people like Garner, Bellingham, if we get him. The next one, and Jadon Sancho's only 20 if you get him as well. Not only are we a good team now, but we look like we can be a good team in 5 years as well, and that's very important. We should sign Van der Beek, says Mojo, given that he is available at a decent price, and next season we will probably have Mata, Lingard and Pereira all being moved. As I said at the start of the video, look, you get criticised if you say a transfer story is a load of crap. I'm not saying that Van der Beek's a load of crap. I think that the credibility is the sources that it's coming from. I mean, Van der Sar's an ex-player of United saying us and Real Madrid are in for him. But take it with a pinch of salt, because a lot of people are saying that Real Madrid are not in this race. They've pulled out of this race. And I still think it's a PR spin, because I'd love to sign Van der Beek, but at the moment we're signing Van der Beek, Havertz, Grealish. We're not signing even two of those. We'll sign one of them, at best. So two of those stories is a load of crap, because United cannot be negotiating for three players. No way do Manchester United, or any other club for that matter, spend time negotiating on three players. They might have them ranked in different areas, but they'll go to the first option, yeah, we can't do that deal, then they'll go to the second one. We can't be negotiating with three. So two of those stories are a load of crap. I personally think that Havertz is a load of crap and we're not in for him at all. Grealish is considered and Van der Beek is considered, and that's what they're looking at between those two. Excited for a super competitive chart show now the lads are all fit, and any predictions, says Cheddar Bob. as a little bit of a spoiler alert, if anybody doesn't remember the last chart show, I can tell you number 1 was Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw was number 1 for the second week in a row, and Matic was number 2, Aaron Wan-Bissaka was number 3, Bruno was number 4, Fred was at 5, Agallo 6, Maguire 7, Martial 8, Dan James 9, and McTominay 10. We've got Pogba and Rashford to come back straight away. Can they get into the top 10? We'll see. The chart show will be back very, very soon. I can't wait for it. And look, I don't want to dwell on that. Where would Van der Beek fit into our squad, says Ben. He's better than Fred. That's all I'm going to say. He's better than Fred. He's better than Matic. He's better than McTominay. He's not better than Bruno or Pogba, but he's better than those three on paper in relation to how good he is. Whether he can adapt to the Premier League or not, I don't know. Hi Mark, I predict 3-1 to United in the Spurs game, and Mark's beloved Shaw. But he deserved it, Ashatush. He absolutely deserved it. He did deserve to be number 1. Let's just talk quickly about the political game of football at the moment. League 1 and 2 have been cancelled or finished by a points per game strategy. So teams at the top have been promoted. Teams that have finished in the playoffs will do playoffs, and teams at the bottom will be relegated. That's League 1 and 2 in England. As it stands with the Premier League, it kicks off a week tomorrow. Double header, Aston Villa, Sheffield United, their game in hand. If Sheffield United win that, they're above us. And then Arsenal, Man City, nice easy 3 points for City to start it off. Don't at me. You know it's the truth. Arsenal think they're winning the league again. They're deluded. Lockdown has made them think they've got a chance. But yeah, so football's coming back. To be blunt, the death rate is something that gets looked at a lot in relation to the lowering of this virus and where we're at. The infection rate's coming down. The death rate's coming down. Not as much as people want it to, but it's still coming down. So the chances of a widespread increase of coronavirus that derails the Premier League at this point doesn't look possible. However, we're still a week and a half out, and some people still think that it could happen. So we just have to take it day to day. But United actually had a friendly against Stoke City today. Stoke City turned up and United refused to play the game. So I don't know what's gone on there. They've not released why that was. United had an inter-friendly, which means it was amongst their players instead. But I don't know. You would take your guess as to why we wouldn't play Stoke when they've actually turned up. Maybe there was concerns about testing or something like that. Songwriter94 says, what worries me is Jadon's family are in London, and will Jadon be enticed to go to Chelsea rather than us because he sees the players going in? Yeah, look, look, don't dismiss Chelsea as a threat. I think what really is going to happen is that Manchester United are leading that race, and if they don't get Champions League football and Chelsea do, it could be a problem for us. That's what I would say about that. In other news, let's have a look what else is going on. Mengi and Garner have been called up to play with the first team, which is train with the first team, which I think, I would expect Garner to go on loan next season, but in these final 9 games, with so many games, they might end up, if we got an injury crisis, being used. So good for those to be involved. And what's that? James. Oh, what the hell? I hate my writing. I have got no idea. I'm never going to know what that was all about. I'm never going to know what that says, but I know what James says. Hopefully we don't just talk about taking advantage of the current market, whereas Chelsea actually do it. Woodward's greatest test ever this summer, says Muzzy Lions. Hello, did you see the latest Herrera interview, says Jenks1102? Yeah, we spoke about that. I mean, look, Herrera left because United treat him badly. And what was I going to say? Yeah, so Manchester United, basically, there was a story a couple of days ago about Dan James going out on loan. We said at the time that it was a load of nonsense. Manchester United have basically clarified that there's no chance that Dan James would go on loan next season. And I think it would be ridiculous to loan Dan James next season. I think Dan James next season is going to be the defining season. I think there's a lot of leeway this year. He came in, he started really well. He had a dip. And then before lockdown, he came back and he was actually doing quite well. And I think that, what do you expect with a young lad from the Championship? Premier League is a massive step up in relation to intensity and fitness. He had a dip, he's come back. Now let's see what he does. He's not going to have an off season now. This 3 months off on lockdown is everybody's off season. You're basically going to come back for 9 games, finish European football, and then come back again in September, which is which is somewhat, you know what, I was thinking about this. If you're Liverpool, if Smalling comes back, Twansubi loan out or stay, says Joy. I think Smalling will definitely go no matter what. I think he will stay in Italy, in fact, for another year on loan with a purchase to buy at the end of that. But I was thinking about this as well, just totally while it's in my head. A Stoke player tested positive at Carrington, says Martin Tyler. Well, there you go. That's probably what it was. I suspected it might be something about that. Dan James Clark says, Atty, if you're a FIFA career mode watcher, you'll know what he's on about. Shout out to that. But we might be at a disadvantage next season. And I don't want to talk about next season too much. But if United do... Well, it will happen. If United finish the season at the end of July, which is what will happen, we're in the Europa League in August. That will take us through to the final in August if we get there, which I think we will. And then we'll have 2 weeks off before the next season starts. Whereas Liverpool, who are out the Champions League, Leicester, who are not in Europe, Arsenal, who are not in Europe, and Chelsea, who won't be in Europe then, and Man City, well, maybe they will be in the Champions League, might be their last trip. Spurs won't be in Europe either. So the traditional top six, we might be the only team that's playing football in August while they're all having a rest preparing for the next season. So that could be disadvantageous for Manchester United if you are basically coming back and playing consistently through till next May. That could be a real problem for us, which is why, again, United should also be looking, you know where I'm going here. United should also be looking at this transfer window and thinking it's not just about taking advantage where others can't. It's also about taking advantage because next season's a big season and we will need some squad depth. And I've got something to tell you here. Dortmund are out of the Champions League, so Sancho's not playing any football in August. Something else to tell you. Ajax are not playing any European football in August either. That's where Van der Beek plays. Interesting, isn't it? Bellingham won't be either. There's 3 signings you could make who will have a whole 6 weeks off before they start playing football, and they could be very important players for us, like Van der Beek and Sancho. Good if Kelt Hulsland says it's good if Chelsea take Werner. Good they use their money. We have Martial and Greenwood. We need a backup striker that love the club like a Garlo but younger. Our future is much better than Chelsea's. Positivity Street. There you go. Is Thomas Partey available in the market, says Rohan? Well, the funny thing is, Spurs, Arsenal, probably Liverpool, maybe even Man City, they're going to be sat twiddling their thumbs in August while we're playing Europa League football. And they won't be buying anybody either because they've got no money. There's a brilliant line I saw today on Twitter, which is Arsenal fans are not skipping the YouTube ads on their official channel anymore because they're playing them out so the club get more money so they might sign a player. I thought that's just brilliant. That's one of the best lines I've ever heard. Apparently the transfer window will open up in August and finish at the end of October, which I think is right because the summer transfer window's got to be 3 months. You can't just say it's only going to be a month because of lockdown. We can buy players this summer. We can sell players this summer. Why should we be disadvantaged by the fact that some people can't? So we do need a 3-month transfer window. Of course, it's going to straddle football. Europa League football, Premier League football, they will all be being played in August, October and September. So look, it's going to be a very, very, very interesting year ahead on and off the pitch. And football's not going to be the same football that we had before. Don't rule United and Chelsea out of the title race if they both have exceptional windows. The title race next year will be much closer than people believe, says Karim Sabu. Well, Liverpool fans disagree because they're saying that they were so far ahead of everybody else. Charlton says Sancho or Bellingham. It's easy. It's always going to be Sancho, isn't it? Because he is a priority and a better player in a position that we desperately need. Do I think Chelsea and Man United will be in a title race next season? No, I think it's really unfair on Lampard and Solskjaer to start saying that. I think we made that mistake when we first got Mourinho. I mean, Mourinho was one of the best managers in the world when we got him, and he got Pogba, and he got Zlatan, and he got Bailly, and he got Mkhitaryan, and people started talking about a title. It's very hard to do that. I wouldn't expect that to happen. Liverpool won't be any different. And Man City will still be a very good team as well. So I don't think you can look any further than those two because they've got the consistency. I agree that next season it will be a closer league. I think even Spurs and Arsenal will step up their game a little bit, and I certainly think us and Chelsea will. But that consistency to go and win a title, I don't think either of us will have that next season, if I'm honest. And I think we there's a level of patience that is required. Let me just get rid of this Arsenal fan. You're on the wrong channel, mate. I'm sure Robbie's live. And if you had a chance to take Messi over Sancho, would you do it? Says Talal. From a footballing experiment point of view, I'd always like to see Messi play in the Premier League, but I think for United's future point of view, I actually would rather have Sancho over Messi. Q, that'll get clips now, and Goldbridge don't know anything. Look, he'd rather have Sancho over Messi, the world's best ever player. But, I mean, how old is Messi? What does Messi offer Manchester United in building a future? Jadon Sancho will never be as good as Messi, by the way. And if Messi was the same age as Sancho, we wouldn't even have this chat. It would be Messi. But Messi at his age, coming into the Premier League where he's never played before, where he's won everything in football, I just think, I'd probably be in the minority, but I would take Sancho because I'm looking long term. I'm looking about building our own dynasty, not about bringing a player in. If it's Ronaldo, it's a different chat because that's just romance, bringing somebody back. But for Messi, I just think I would go Sancho, yeah. Has there been any date set for when next season starts, says Per Eric Klassen? I think they're talking around like the middle of September. Loaning James out wouldn't be a terrible idea if we had enough squad depth. He got thrown in at the deep end this season when he needed nursing into the team, says Sean Turner. Yeah, but I think next season he won't get thrown into the team and he'll be used the way he should be used, which is an impact player who is there to actually have a little less pressure on him. What about Newcastle, Mark, with the potential takeover, says a Bass channel? I don't see... Look, Newcastle could have 500 million to spend this summer. They won't be a threat to us. They might get a Grealish because that's a step up for him and it's more money. They might, blow Everton out of the water for a couple of their players like Richarlison or an Iwobi or whoever else that they've got. But they're not going to, Jadon Sancho is not going to go to Newcastle just because they pay him good wages. Van der Beek's not going to go to Newcastle because they pay him good wages. They're top tier players. And as Man City showed before us and Blackburn and Chelsea, there's certain players you can buy when you've got a lot of money, but you've got no status. The big thing is to get in the Champions League. And as soon as you get in the Champions League, then all bets are off. If Newcastle were in the Champions League next season, they can buy an Aguero, they can buy a Jadon Sancho, because that's exactly what Man City did. You get in the Champions League and you can start to buy decent players. Until you're in the Champions League, you're really going to be picking up players that see Newcastle as a step up, or players that are there for a wage. The top players don't really want to do it for the wage. Werner wouldn't go to Newcastle for the money. He wants a career, and Newcastle can't offer him that at the moment. So there you go. Do you think we will make any other signings after Sancho, says Yoda? I do think we'll sign more than Sancho. As I've always said, if it's just Sancho, I don't think you can be massively disappointed, although I think people will be because they see this as an opportunity. I think it will be Sancho and Bellingham. I think they're the two players that United will get. I'm not going to say it's definitely going to happen because if we don't get Champions League football, I think we do open the door to Chelsea for Sancho. And ultimately with Bellingham, I think we will get him. I think we really, really want him, but we have missed out on players that we've really wanted before. Newcastle can have top shirt seller Lingard from us, says Pete Squire. Look, Newcastle, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Are they watching? If you want to pimp up your shirt sales, if you want the king of marketing, if you want Adidas to pump more money into your club, get Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard is world class off the pitch at all that stuff. He's brilliant. He's the poster boy of Manchester United for all that. And I actually think he'd be a good signing for Newcastle. So if you're listening, Newcastle, Jesse Lingard should be your first signing. I'm not even joking. I'm saying it with a straight face. I mean, bloody hell, you play Sean Longstaff in your team. I've seen Newcastle. They're crap. They've got one or two good players that most of them are crap. You're telling me Jesse Lingard doesn't improve Newcastle? I'm saying it with a straight face. Pick up the phone. Hotline Lingard. Pick up the phone. We've had lockdown, so you can have him for 40 million, and we're letting you have him. We're letting him have you on the cheap. We're not. I mean, we're having you on really, but we're letting you have him on the cheap. £40 million, Jesse Lingard as a favour from Manchester United, from one United to another. There you go. When will Sancho sign? Earliest and latest date, says Nick. Well, the earliest he'll sign is August. The latest he'll sign is October. I love your football career mode, says Nikhil. Thank you very much. That's on That's Football for people who want it. And I'd let Lingard go for a packet of crisps, says Mirror Germany. No, I disagree. I do think that, you know, I'm going to be a DJ again. I'm not really. There's levels. There's Manchester United. There's Newcastle United. There's Everton. There's Bournemouth. There's Arsenal. But Arsenal would never take Lingard. Even that they wouldn't take Lingard because they think they're bigger than Manchester United. So they're like, oh, we don't want Lingard. We don't want Smalling. Well, they'd actually probably be decent players for them. But Jesse Lingard at Manchester United, Andreas Pereira at Manchester United, Phil Jones at Manchester United, they ain't good enough. We know that. You know, whether they can ever turn it around, probably not. But at the moment, they're not good enough. That's not slagging your players off. That's being honest in relation to their ability on the pitch. I think this nonsense that, oh, you're slagging the players off. Look, we can all be constructive about our players, and I think we've all been constructive about most of our players, but there becomes a point where the Bepes of this world, the Obertans of this world, the Klebersons of this world, the Alexis Sanchez's of this world, the Di Marias of this world, the Depays of this world, there comes a point where you've just got to say, sell them. There's nothing constructive you can do, sell them. And that's across every football club. And I think with Lingard and Pereira and Jones, that may be the case for United's decision to make. It may well be. But just because they're not performing for Manchester United and all the pressure that brings, doesn't mean that they can't go to Newcastle and perform very, very well. And since when should Newcastle or Bournemouth or any other lower Premier League club arrogantly look at Manchester United and say, we don't want them, they're crap? Totally different. It's a totally different world. And United have bought many a player from a Newcastle or whatever who haven't performed at Manchester United. So we probably haven't from Newcastle, actually. But you know what I mean. When do you think Sancho will sign? Nick, I think we've just done that. And songwriter, Mark, if it was out of Bellingham or Partey, would you still want Bellingham? And do you have a prediction for the Man United and Spurs game? Look, a lot of people are asking me about this Spurs game, and I really do. Please smash a like on the video if you're watching, by the way. Got nearly 1,000 likes, and subscribe if you're new, bottom right-hand corner. Thanks everyone who's tuning in, and please share the video. We've nearly got 8,000 watching. I think we all know football's heading back now. People are getting excited. But I can't give you a score prediction for the Spurs game because there's too many unknowns. The Spurs we were going to play before lockdown, we would have won. They've now got a lot of players back. Dele Alli's apparently going to be suspended, which makes them better. It's typical. We've got Rashford and Pogba. It's a massively important game. You don't know what the fitness levels are going to be like of each club. It's so hard to predict. What I would say is we need to win it. We need to go into that game and win it. Nick P, imagine that midfield. Lingy, Ginger Longstaff, regular Longstaff, frightening. Nick P, for me, that's Champions League. That'll get him in the top 4. And Sean Turner, how bad do you think the backlash of the fans will be if we don't sign a big name this summer after all the PR the club has been pumping out? Sean, to be honest with you, I think we've had 2 bad summer transfer windows in a row. Last summer wasn't terrible because we bought Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, but we bought no midfielders and we bought no strikers. Last summer, even when we bought Harry Maguire, and we'd already bought Wan-Bissaka and Dan James, there was Glazer out all over Twitter. The transfer window closed and it disappeared, even though we didn't buy a midfielder and attacker. The summer before, it was even worse. You know, Mourinho wanted players, they weren't delivered for whatever reason. So I don't think there would be a backlash. I don't. I think United and the Glazers just seem to ride anything out. So I don't. For me, it's not the backlash. I think the key word was the PR there. There's a lot of positivity around Manchester United at the moment. And when there's positivity, there's goodwill. Do Manchester United want to go into another season where the goodwill isn't there because they've not performed well in the transfer window? At the end of the last transfer window, there was a lot of people annoyed that we didn't buy a midfielder and attacker. And when the results didn't go our way, people started to turn on the club and Ollie, but more importantly the club. And by Christmas time or just after, you've got Ed Woodward's house being attacked. You've got people singing songs at Old Trafford about the Glazers. The season before, they didn't bring the players in again. Again, there wasn't a lot of goodwill. Mourinho ended up being sacked. They had to sack a manager, pay a lot of money out. So forget Solskjaer for a moment. Look at the last 2 transfer windows in the summer. They didn't go well. And it didn't start the season well, and it ended up with United having to do two quite big things to turn around very sour relations with the fans. I think they'll have learnt from that. Don't go into this season with bad will from the fans. To do that, they've got to bring in Jadon Sancho. If they don't, we go into another season with bad will from the fans, and we know what's happened in the last couple of years. It's not been great starts to the season, has it? And there's been tipping points around Christmas. So I think United will not be too worried about Backlash. They'll be too worried about what might happen next season if they don't bring the player in this summer. And also, they know that the PR of bringing Sancho in will just keep building on the positivity around the club at the moment. And obviously, that will give everybody else more time. So I think United know what they need to do. What would be a perfect transfer window, says Bryce Menezes. Finn, I will never say that. It's political. You cannot get me to do that. And I lived in Ireland, so I know exactly what you're talking about. What will be the perfect transfer window? I don't think we can achieve the perfect transfer window for me. My perfect transfer window would have been Sancho, Bellingham, Werner, and a Pogba new contract. That would have been it for me. What we could achieve is something different to that, which is Sancho, Bellingham, Van der Beek, and Pogba stays for a year. It doesn't bring us the striker that we need, but it brings in two midfielders that are here for the long term, a right winger who is top of his game for the long term, and it keeps Pogba at the club for another year. So if you're asking me what the dream transfer window is at the moment, knowing that we're not going to get the striker, it would be Sancho, Bellingham, and a Van der Beek or Grealish, and Pogba stays. And hopefully Pogba signs a new contract, but I don't think that's going to happen if we're going to sign a Van der Beek. I think Pogba will go next summer. But yeah, that for me would be the dream summer now. And I still think Van der Beek's a bit of a dream. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree that we're in for him. I still think it might be Grealish, but we'll see. Mark, is there a possibility that Werner wanted to start and his agent told teams as much? Chelsea could have promised him that role, says Deuce Beast 20. It could have been, but I don't think United actually saw through their interest to a bid anyway. Osman looks tremendous. Could we get him? This is Gavin Chalmers. I think we should be looking at Osman. I think I said it before about Osman. Playing in the French league, so he'll be relatively cheap. Nigerian, so you could bring him in the summer. Agallo would be a player that he looks up to. He plays in the same position. You give him up until January with Agallo at the club to sort of help him settle in, and you know that is important. It is important for people to be able to settle in with familiar players, etc. And then Agallo goes back to China, and Osman's ready to step up. But I don't see United doing anything like that, to be honest. Goober says, Mason Greenwood recently broke up with his girlfriend. Do you think this will affect his gameplay on the pitch? Not from what I've heard. I think he's got another girlfriend. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about Mason's love life. And Mark, any updates from Fabrizio, says Akash. Not at the moment. There was a rumour that he'd said that the Van der Beek rumours are true, but I haven't heard anything official about that. If Pogba signs a contract, will you take Van der Beek, says Deep. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't care if United has got too many midfielders. I don't know why you would care. I don't care how many strikers we've got. I don't care how many defenders we've got. I mean, that's Ollie's problem. I would rather have too many than too few like this season. I think we had too few midfielders and too few attackers. So, you know, if we buy Van der Beek and we buy Bellingham and we keep Pogba and we've still, you know, Matic will be gone at some point, then you've got competition for places. That's what you want. I'm not really bothered about being overstacked in a position. I'm really not. Buy Havertz, says Aditya. I think Kai Havertz or whatever you want to call him, or Jimmy Havertz or his brother or his mother Havertz, whatever, they're not coming to Manchester United. They're just not. The deal makes no sense on any level. We don't need him. He's absolutely fantastic. We don't need him. He doesn't play in the position that we need him. And he would cost the same amount of money as Jadon Sancho. So anybody who wants Havertz basically doesn't want Sancho, because we haven't got the money to buy both. So I want this Havertz rumour to Manchester United to end quickly, because I think it's a load of crap. And if it's not, I'm worried. Because if United think, let's get Havertz and build a team around him, He ain't that player that we need. We need a quick flair player who skips past players. We don't need another Havertz type player that we've got players like that. And look, I'm not saying Havertz isn't better than Bruno, but I'm very happy with Bruno, thanks. Klopp spoke to Sancho, says Joel Harper. Well, I ain't worried about Liverpool at this point. He hasn't got a path to the first team at Liverpool. He has at United. And Liverpool haven't got the money. Because if they did, why didn't they go for Werner? I mean, unless there's something... Look, never say never. Let's not get arrogant. If Liverpool went for Sancho, he might go to Liverpool over us. It would be a horrible, horrible loss, but we might miss out on him. Can Liverpool pay the wages we'll pay? No. Can they pay the fee that we'll pay? No. But what if Liverpool have not gone for Werner because they're keeping their budget back to make a big move for Sancho? We would hold a massive L. Imagine Chelsea get Werner and Liverpool get Sancho. What are we going to get? Havertz. That would be... It would make me cry because Havertz is a good player, but what team are you going to build with Havertz? Like, what we're going to do? Some stupid diamond with bloody Bruno, Pogba, Havertz and whoever else behind him. And then two up front with no width. I mean, we need a right-sided player who can play on the wing so that we can have Rashford on the left, Martial up the front, Bruno in behind and two midfielders in behind him. That's what we need to do. Havertz, because we've messed up the Sancho deal, is just like, oh, forget it. I don't want Havertz. And the only reason I could see us going for him is if we mess up the Sancho deal, which I just do not want to happen. What are the odds of us going for Josh King again in January when Igalo goes back to China? You know it's going to happen, says Sean Turner. Well, I'd never say never. I mean, there does seem to be with Solskjaer and the people around him a bit of mates rate stuff going on. This Solbakken guy is linked in with Igalo's agent and Josh King's agent, so there might be some back scratching going on there. But ultimately, I think Woodward and co need to be smart to that. If that is the case, and it's a big if, we shouldn't be doing deals with people that we know. We should be doing deals with players that make us the best team in the world. You can't have mates rates with Manchester United. You can do it down your local club, but not at Manchester United. You can't buy players because your mate knows that player. You know, it's not... Well, Manchester United, I don't see what Josh King offers Manchester United at all. I think we got lucky with Igalo. That should not be a blueprint to say, let's go and do that again. Let's go and take a massive last-minute risk on a player that doesn't look like they're good enough. We got away with it with Igalo, and he's been fantastic. We'd be lucky for it to happen again. Daniel Luciano says, I know you don't want to talk about next transfer window, but what forward options do you really have once Igalo leaves, or just sticking with Greenwood? I don't know what Manchester United's long-term approach is going to be, Daniel, to the transfer window. I don't know, to the striker position. We will need one, but I don't know what we're going to do. We'll just have to wait and see. Joshua says Greenwood's better than King. Well, Greenwood's better. Yeah, I think... I think there's a lot of strikers better than Josh King, to be honest with you. I think Callum Wilson's better than Josh King. Josh King's not even the best striker at Bournemouth. So, and that, you know, I don't like slating players like that, but ultimately it's an entertainment business, isn't it? You know, if you're playing Fantasy Premier League or you're playing FIFA, you will snub a player because you think another player's better. Well, this is real life. I don't think you buy a footballer to play football. You don't buy a footballer to sit and play dominoes with you or chat about what your film collection is. You know, in that case, Josh King might be the nicest person in the Premier League. But we're Manchester United and we need strikers and forwards that are going to win us the Premier League. And that's what I mean. Mates rates doesn't roll. We need to be... I've always said this. We need to be aggressive in the transfer window and ruthless. Aggressive in going for the best players we can get and ruthless in removing those players that aren't good enough. That's what United need to do, and they will be successful. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. These shows are really exhausting me. You're really putting me through the ringer over these 8 o'clock shows. We blast through some really good conversation. So thanks to everybody in the live comments. Please smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new, bottom right hand corner. We're back in the morning at 10 o'clock as per usual with the latest Man United news and transfer news. And the Flex and Rant show was up at 1 o'clock today. If you've not seen that, it's on the homepage. Rant's talking... I nearly said something else, but Rant's talking his normal opinion. Pogba, the importance of Pogba. and rated Lingard better than Mason Mount as well, so you can check that out. You've done 3 shows, Mark. You deserve a rest, says Daniel Luciano. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody tuning in. I'm really enjoying these 8 o'clock shows now. I don't know whether it's the momentum of football coming back. There's so much to talk about, but personally I think it's just the things that you throw at it in the show just make it throw really well. So thanks everyone. Subscribe bottom right hand corner if you are a newbie. You're going to love this channel. Keep getting involved, and I'll see you in the morning. Thanks for watching.